Outer Space.
That's the name of that painting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I like how the orange shirt kind of puts you in there with all the orange splattering around. I have to tell you something that orange is my favorite color too.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Jannie's known this for years. It's like, it's a thing.
That's funny.
Well, and there's this whole thing that I was talking with Mark about when I went to see him in his studio recently when, hooray, things are starting to open up. I was actually able to see you in person. But there was this one painting that he did a collaboration. It's a beautiful story, which I can go into a little bit of detail, but I wrote about it in my blog that he inspired another artist to start painting again after a long period of time by asking him to do a collaboration. And the piece, there was a piece that he was getting out of his car that he was bringing into the studio. And he said, oh, this is that piece. And he said, it's only half done. And I said, I love it like that. Don't change it. And I wanted Eugene to see it because it's half of it is white. It's the white canvas that has not been finished, Eugene. The other half is orange.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's in his that list that you sent me with all the paintings and stuff. I think I saw it. Yeah. And there's another one in there that's from 2020 that's primarily orange. Let me see if I can get it up on the screen. That I was kind of psyched about. Can you see that?
I love that one.
I can see it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that just says it all about your style, Mark. I mean, I was looking at your work and I was like, really taken by all the movement and everything. And I don't know, what is it about your style? What motivates you? Because that's a lot of movement and I like it.
Well, this particular piece doesn't fit the category of my typical inspiration, which comes from scuba diving, right? But
really?
yeah, for the most part. So what I try to do, since I'm admittedly not a great underwater photographer, what I try to do is capture with my eyes and with my lackluster photography skills below the surface and translate them into canvases. So you know, I have this duality as a photographer and as a painter, and sometimes I'm so torn on which medium I want to work with. So I kind of integrate them hand in hand, whether the photography becomes the starting point, and then the canvas comes later, or
right. No, I get it, because I'm looking at the painting behind you, and that looks, now that you mentioned the underwater and the scuba diving, I see it. It's so obvious now. I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a trippy dive.
Yeah. Look, one of my most exhilarating dives of my entire life was in off the coast of Maui, Lahaina, actually, and it was a night dive, and it was only 3 of us on the dive, and it went in right at sunset, and 44-minute dive, came out. It was basically black. You know, there's not many lights on Lahaina in particular, in that area, and so we exited. Maximum depth was maybe like 50 feet. When we exited the water, it had the sun had gone completely down. It was near dark, but see, I'm smiling like from ear to ear.
Right.
All the stars were out, and I felt like I was.
Oh my
James,
gosh!
You know, like, you know, just
that's amazing.
Taking off my my tank, and then walking, taking off my fins, and then holding all the gear, and just kind of, I don't know, and the colors. When everything's black, anything that you shine in your flashlight then has this bright saturated color, especially if your light's right on it or in shallow depths.
Wow. What's
I guess
that
so.
like when you're underwater and the sun is setting? I've never done scuba diving. I mean, that sounds like that would be amazing.
It's pretty fantastic. I mean, you know, we had flashlights that were, you know, basically would accommodate an hour-long dive. And, you know, I got to say that I was swimming over an eel that was probably about I'm 5'11". It's probably about 6 feet long underneath me, probably the girth of at least my neck. And as blue as the blue that you see in my background, and as white as, you know, a sheet of paper that you run through your printer. And it was just so more fantastic than scary, because of just what nature, you know, you could say what God has created.
Yeah.
You know, I just it's mind-boggling. So even though you don't see like an eel behind me, nor do I ever try to paint an animal or a sea creature, or they're in there in a way.
Right. Have you actually tried underwater photography and you just decided you didn't like it?
No, I still attempt every time I go, because I want to somehow capture the moment, even if they're not that great. I do need to upgrade my gear as far as underwater gear is concerned.
Right.
I've broken a couple cameras at depth. Like
Really?
my Nikons were supposed to have a depth rating of 100 feet. And I think I took them down 80, 90 and then broke two of them. That's over $1,000 down the drain right there.
Just like that.
Yeah. It looked
Wow.
like a King Kong took the camera and just bent it in half. Like the LED screen on the back was compromised. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And of course, after the warranty expired, you know, so.
Right. And then you gotten used to the equipment and it was like your camera that you go to, and all of a sudden it's gone. That's amazing.
Yeah. And not, you know, when you have a $500 deductible, not worth making a claim.
No.
You know, on your insurance.
No. What's the biggest challenge about underwater photography? Is it I would imagine it's lighting. Or is it the speed?
I would say a combination of things. Lighting for sure, because you really should have two lights at 45-degree angles. So any novice equipment's really not going to, when a light is coming straight on, you're basically going to be highlighting every little particle in the water, and that's not what you really want to do.
No. I can imagine. I'm taking a look at the other piece that you had up in your let's see if I can share this. It's oh well, actually, you know what it is? It's that piece on the back in your background. That's so funny. Yeah. So that one you completed this year.
Correct.
And that is about, I'm reading here, let's see, 60 by 20?
Correct, yes.
That's pretty big. Are you generally large scale?
You know, I found that the pieces that I find most suitable for exhibition are rectangles, and typically 20 by 60, 24 by 72. Because I like the, especially with, well, put it this way, in the last handful of years, I found a great opportunity to exhibit my work outside of the typical galleries. And I've been staging real estate properties for sale, you know, condominiums, etc. So
that's so perfect.
Something that size, it goes great behind a couch, or you know, or if I flip it over the other way on one of those long, you know, the tall walls that you really can't seem to put anything behind or in front. Excuse me. Or to cover an electrical panel that seems to be in the middle of nowhere. So this 20 by 60 and 24 by 72 are my most my favorite size pieces to work on.
That's pretty cool. I mean, the stagers must love you because you come in with your own art.
They seem to appreciate it. They don't always have the client always doesn't always want to go original.
Right.
I'm trying to help people steer away from and I'm not judging, not everyone can afford it, but the $39.99 Home Goods or Marshalls, TJ Maxx kind of artwork,
Right. I think there's a common thought out there that art is not affordable, and people shy away from even asking, but that's cool that you're trying to welcome people into the fold, bring them into buying stuff.
Well, I other than that, or in conjunction with that, I do lease my work, and that's slowly growing into a more commonplace situation. And I also credit back whether it's a developer, homeowner, or real estate agent, I credit them back upon sale if they make an effort to sell the piece. So it's in a sense, the leasing could be free as long as they help me market the work and sell it.
That's pretty genius. Well, Jannie and I have been talking to, a couple of artists here and there over the past couple weeks, and they've said that it's been pretty active lately in terms of sales during this time, which I find kind of cool. Have you found that?
Well, I got to say that I haven't really been out there enough to prove that true. But as I had just mentioned about leasing, I did just lease some work for a new construction condo up in the Heights on Webster Ave.
That's cool.
One of my favorite new pieces is there.
Oh yeah? What does it look like, Jannie?
It's the one, I don't know if you have them all in front of you, but it's called Roy G. Biv and then Roy G. Biv backwards. I don't know how to pronounce that. Roy G. Biv.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I don't think there's any way to actually say it.
Oh, I just found it.
Yeah, how do you Roy G. Biv? Bib, it's
That's
not really.
I love that. Bib Gior.
Yeah, Bib Gior. Roy G. Biv.
Gior.
Yeah. It's a tongue twister. This just so instead of waiting, I guess, for you to ask a question that involves chroma depth. I'll tell you a little story.
Okay.
Back in the day, all right, going back before I even started painting, I was always had an appreciation for Led Zeppelin and light shows and that sort of thing. So I went to a Hayden Planetarium. Pink Floyd. Loved Led Zeppelin too, but Pink Floyd laser light show at Hayden Planetarium around awesome. Around 1990. So I saved those glasses. They're not the red and blue, but the clear lens 3D glasses, cardboard frame. So, cheapies, but
right.
And you probably know or had one or know of someone who had one of the junk drawer in your kitchen. Right. Usually it's to the right of the sink and has your scissors and tape and rubber bands and blah, 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 right? So anyway, I saved those glasses, and I was inspired for many years. And then I was inspired to paint after a 1994 Soho studio tour that I was on with a lot of members from my university. I went to college at University of Rhode Island. So we came to New York for, I turned it into a weekend, but nonetheless, inspired by this trip. And then I started wearing the 3D glasses while painting. And this you know, this is 26 years later. So when you know how I was talking about translating what I see in a sense, visually as opposed to, you know, verbally or on paper, I try to translate the depths that I perceive when I'm diving or whether I'm jumping out of a plane. And I don't, even if the image appears flat as like the paint, the type of paint, as
Right.
opposed to glossy, I still try to create those layers, even if it's monochromatic, even if we're talking about the same color or the same, say I use blues, like 10 different blues. Well, I'm not just using one, so it's not necessarily, I'm trying to create depth anytime I work.
That's
That
amazing.
makes sense?
Yeah, no. So for instance, like the piece that we were just looking at, if I put on those glasses, I would see something slightly different or a lot different.
Well, the way that works, and you know, I was on a call last week with the inventor of that film, the clear film 3D glasses. What happens is that the colors of the spectrum, in order, tend to come forward and recede. So red is going to be the most front. It's going to be in the forefront,
Right.
and by the time you get to violet, it'll be in the back. So black, since black's not considered a color, black is always the one that's going to be the furthest back.
Okay.
So in a sense, when I did that reversal of Roy G. Biv and then backwards, what's next to the red is going to be violet. And even though they're not layered on top of one another, the juxtaposition of those two colors will create a significant contrast. And it was really just a play on the whole concept of Roy G. Biv and the colors of the spectrum.
Right.
Just to do something slightly out of the norm. That's
yeah,
all
no.
I
I would imagine it's like floating in space. You see the black, and then in front of it, all these brilliant colors just popping. And yeah, I get it. That's pretty cool.
It's really amazing because you start to feel like you go into the painting.
Really?
Yeah, there's something that starts, you actually feel like you're floating within that.
Now, Jannie, how did you see his work first? Where did you see
I
it?
saw his work when he was giving well, actually, the very first time I saw it was when I went to visit John Fathom at 660 Studios the first time. And I was writing a blog post about John, and John was going through, you know, because there were so many different artists that he had in that space that had work there that, you know, they were working out of that space. They had work hung on the walls. And one of the artists, when I was writing the blog post, I had asked him to just identify who all the artists were, because I had taken photographs of everything. And he went through the list again in the finalizing of that. And so I knew Mark's name because of that meeting and seeing his work there. But I didn't meet him until probably about a year or so later. I went to an artist talk at a gallery in Jersey City, and he, you know, was there. And I specifically went knowing that I would get a chance to finally meet this guy. And so, you know, I went to the artist talk, and then I introduced myself to him afterwards. And then, you know, we had talked because I wanted to write a blog post about him, but then it took a while just because of schedules and stuff. And probably about almost another year later, I ran into him at another show in Jersey City. And we said, let's do this, because, you know, if we wait any longer, it's going to be another year, and let's do this. So then we started. He was doing another show at the time, and he said that at that show he would actually have the glasses available to, you know, to look at the work. So we started to look at the work at that show, and I had looked a little bit in the first gallery when I had seen him, but I had not really looked as much in depth as I did at the show it was actually this place called AccuWorks, which is an acupuncture studio. And he had a beautiful event there, a really wonderful event. And so, you know, we got into this whole conversation about, you know, what he does and his work and his life. And I had already read a little bit about him, and I knew that we had overlapped a little bit where we had lived and different places that we'd gone to. And so I mentioned that. And in the conversation, he told me that he had actually been working out of a space that was downstairs in this building on West Broadway. And I said, oh, which one? And he told me the address, and it actually was the building that I had lived in back in like the 90s and in the mid 90s. So,
No way, was it that restaurant?
You've been there, Eugene.
No way.
Yeah. So it's this weird thing that I've seen his work and I've seen him many times over the years, but it's only recently that I've really gotten to see him and his work in depth. But we never met when he was in that other space downstairs in my building, but he was there when I was there. So it was really pretty wild. And we know a lot of the same people because of that. So it turns out took us until we met in Jersey City to find out that we'd known each other for years. So,
Mark, what do you what's the deal with Jersey City? Why so many artists there, in your opinion? What's going on there?
Well, I guess it's a good question.
Is it like, no, I mean, is it a function of like, okay, purely it was just a good place to go while everything got overpriced in New York City, and then one person went and then all kinds of people went, or was it, I find it incredible that there's such a body of a pool of such talented people there.
I mean, there certainly is, and I don't have the answer to that one. What I can tell you is that I moved out of Manhattan 20 years ago. I came here in actually going on 21. I came here in '99, and and it was a little rough. I'm not gonna lie. So, but that was part of the allure. I think that kind of like if you're familiar with Bushwick, for example,
right?
Little the murals and the something about the warehouses and the
right.
you know, the occasional vacant lot and stuff. It's not overdeveloped yet, and it's been kind of like a hip spot to be in, and Jersey City was that. Now development is blowing up. So
yeah,
you know, so now the artists are no longer one concentrated spot. We're all over Jersey City, so we're in every neighborhood now. So and integrating, and you know, whether it's coffee shops or little galleries or you know, or working studios with you know, garage doors and or a motorcycle outside. It's it is kind of a mecca in a sense. I'm just
yeah, no, I get it.
Feeling out the new wave.
Yeah. You know, speaking of, I was checking out your mixed media stuff, like the wearable art. Is that something you do currently, or is that from the past? Or I couldn't figure out the timeline on that.
Well, it started a long time ago, and it's still current, just not on a daily basis.
Right.
Like, for example, you know, there's an opera singer who loved my work. It's been a couple years since I did that piece. I painted a vest for him.
Right.
He was doing Roland Burke's. He was doing a performance at I think Lincoln Center.
Or something
Could
like
be
that.
I forget the exact venue, but it was up there in Manhattan. So anyway, so he that vest was for him. Put it this way, I am currently painting another pair of Converse All Stars.
That's awesome.
You know, it's not a daily thing as far as the wearable art, but it's not a dead issue by any means.
So you're actually painting on the product. You're not
Yes.
developing fabrics, which I
No.
could totally see you doing, because this stuff translates well to like surface design or like, you know, objects.
I would consider.
Yeah.
Put it this way, I have I think I have enough ideas for about 3 lifetimes. So it's just a matter of creating the time in order to create the work.
Right. I think we all have that problem of like too many ideas and too little time. It's yeah. Are you showing currently at any galleries? I see that you have a long list of like exhibitions that you've been in, but is there anything that we need to be aware of where your work can be seen?
Well, I'm gonna say yes, because that's more positive than not. But I am now at the point of introducing my new studio space to the general public in small numbers at a time. That's by being safe and with social distancing. The owners of the building that I have my studio in love my work, and they have allowed me to, in a sense, take over the hallways surrounding my studio space. So I have 21 pieces on display in that building, and my immediate neighbors are happy with the work that they see on a regular basis as they approach their studios. So in a sense, yes, I have, we can call it the Sterling Gallery, or that's the name of the building, the complex. It's 139,000 square feet. So this is a piece of the pie in a sense, and allows me to have a number of pieces on display outside of in studio and the 100+ pieces I probably have in storage.
Where are you most likely to sell work in your experience? Do you sell it in person, online? Do you do anything online?
Well, I do have a website that's constantly being worked on. But the shopping cart is not yet there. My intention is to have it, I guess the new goal would be July 1st. Probably through exhibiting in properties for sale. As of late, the last few years, that's been the trend.
Great idea. Jannie, do you want to add anything?
Well, this goes back to what he was saying before about when he was claiming that he's not very good at underwater photography. I happen to own one of his pieces that is, I have a couple of his photographs, and I absolutely love them. And I personally, I think that he's actually a great underwater photographer. But the thing, you know, like other artists who I know, including you, Eugene, by the way, very often you're telling people, oh, well, you know, I dabble in this, or, you know, I've tried it, but I'm just not really that great at it. He's awesome. So yeah, it's he's one of these people that is so incredibly humble about his own abilities and about what he's doing that every time I hear him saying it, I'm just kind of like, Mark, stop. Just start walking around saying I'm awesome. Because you are. Like, it's just, there's so many things that he's doing that he does so well. And he is always trying new things. And he's not, when he goes in to do them, he's not just dabbling. He's doing them in a way that they're absolutely exquisite. And you know, so I think that it's that idea of thinking that it's not very good, it's because you're such a perfectionist at what you do. Right. Because the pieces that I have are just gorgeous. And one of them is an underwater shot. It's a school of fish. It's gorgeous. And it's actually you know, something that when I saw that, it was with two other pieces that I also have. And they're beautiful. They're just absolutely beautiful. And the translation to the artwork is definitely there in terms of the ideas and the feeling that you get, but it's also something that the art stands alone in its excellence, and then the photographs stand alone in excellence. And there's another piece that I just saw when I was visiting your studio, Mark, that the one that you were still working on, that was the material. Oh my goodness. It's like, because he's using this material with the 3D, like this thing, when you put those, number one, it's beautiful by itself, but then when you put the glasses on, you're on another planet, because it's like all these levels and layers happening already, and all these colors and textures. It's really amazing.
I have a question for you, Mark.
Yes.
At what point, like, can you remember one point in your life where you just said, "Oh, screw it, I'm an artist," and you owned it?
I would have to say that was probably well, I knew I wanted to be an artist long before I was
Active.
able to.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I would say it was probably a couple of years to. God, you know, I was in a photography class in high school, and I kind of knew it then, but
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to claim it, you know. So I didn't major in.
You knew then, and then you claimed it later. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I knew in the 90s, excuse me, in the late 80s, that was who I was or who I am, you know, and but I couldn't really claim it and or own it, I guess, until the early 90s, and I was originally a psychology major in school, because I figured, well, that's a whole long story, but I then changed my major to studio arts, including painting and photography, and that was what my BFA was. The emphasis was on is painting and photography.
Very
So
cool.
I knew before the world knew.
Well, and you're also a published photographer, and you know, that's another whole field that it's not easy to have your work recognized in that way. So it's art photography and travel photography, and I'm telling you what you already know, but I'm saying this for the benefit of our viewing audience. They're not easy fields to be recognized in. So.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know, Eugene probably doesn't know this, and Jannie, I'm not sure if you do, or this is a little reminder, but one of the important parts about me being an artist is immersing myself so much, whereas it's not just about me, and it's not just about the two of you, it's about all of us collectively, right? So I wanted to sort of pay it forward somehow early on. And how I did was I helped other artists with cataloging their work. This is pre-digital photography, whereas people needed slides to send to galleries. So many people saw me as an accredited photographer, so I would document their artwork so they could submit to galleries, even though I was doing the same for myself. And anybody that wasn't able to pay via cash, check, credit card, etc., would pay me through art. So my art collection started almost as long as I've been creating. So I have a substantial art collection that originally started from art as barter. And notice the word art is in the word barter. So I've been bartering for many, many years and have a pretty substantial collection of my own.
That's incredible. You sound a lot like Jannie. She has an incredible art collection too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and there's another way that we're similar and complementary in that Mark does these events that are just phenomenal because he is himself such a great artist. So it's, you know, with his artwork, and sometimes he'll be doing collaborations with other artists. But when he talks about art, he expands out his definition of art is. So, you know, he has a good friend who is a sommelier and a mixologist. He has musician friends who are just off the charts awesome. And, you know, he'll do these events with food and wine and, you know, cocktails, and he'll do them in a groovy space, and it'll just be like the who's who of everybody is there having a great time because everybody just loves environment, and it's such a creative space. So that's another thing that I was like, I need to get to know you better.
Well, throwing a party is an art form, so yeah, that's like performance art at its best. So yeah, awesome, great. Well, I think we covered everything and we grilled you well enough. Sorry I know you were a little bit reluctant about being on camera. I hate it too. It's not my favorite thing to do, but you did share some cool stuff with us, and thank you for that.
Well, thank you for taking the time to put this together.